Good morning, West USA. Welcome to another edition of our West USA Weekly podcast. Appreciate everybody joining us today. A little sneak peek at what we got coming up today as I hit the button and nothing happens.
My phone changed.
Yeah, well, Nick broke the tire system.
It's real broke right now. Hold on.
All right. So anyways, what'd you guys do this weekend? Well, we have, of course, Todd will be here. He is here to to give us our weekly numbers. We got Anthony Cucci. He's going to join us today. Obviously, everybody knows Anthony from HCP Home Inspections, but we're going to talk about networking because Anthony is one of the best when it comes down to networking. And I don't know what else we got coming. I know we got Matt Baker here going to give us our Bookspan Baker Team Mortgage Minute. And then I'm going to be talking, let's see what I might. Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Fixed it.
All right. Should we start all over? No.
Sing the song.
All right. Then I'm going to be talking about 3 tips to increasing your production. So we got we're off to a fantastic start.
There we go.
It can only go up from here.
It's how we handle adversity.
As always, if you got any comments or questions, feel free to email us at webinar@westusa.com. And let's jump right into some of our announcements. A little Q&A session when it comes down to appraisals. So that is going on at the Chandler office tomorrow between 9 and 10:30. All right, we got a CE class coming up for 3 hours, 3 general hours, and it comes down to the topic is general financing. So that's going on tomorrow as well from 12 to 3 p.m. That's going to be up here at the North Phoenix office. If you are planning on attending, just stop by my office with a couple cheeseburgers. We got our FHA VA loans and what agents need to know, another CE class. This will be 3 hours of legal issues in person tomorrow as well. Tomorrow's a busy day. That's going to be at the Chandler office. So get signed up. And as always, if you want to get signed up for any of these classes, regardless of what office you hang your license out of, you're always invited to attend any of them. All you got to do is go to your dashboard, click on the calendar, and get signed up for that class. Another CE class. This is a virtual one with our very own Todd Menard. 3 hours of commissioner standards coming up on a Wednesday. So this is duties to clients and customers. How about their duties to us? It's not
actually that we do have that, but it's a different class.
Oh, okay.
It's to be paid or not to be paid. Then we talk about what their job is.
All right, our Chandler office meeting this Wednesday with James Marcus and Sean Murphy are going to be there talking about armless. And then, of course, our very own Dean Becker will be there as well. So that should be an interesting one. So that's this Wednesday from 10 to 11. Finally, something to talk about. Happy hour. All right. So we got our next happy hour for the surprise office at Macayo's, or which my mom would call it Macaya's, because she just can't pronounce anything properly. She calls it Red Robin. She's like, hey, we're going to the Red Rooster. We're like, what's the Red Rooster?
Hey, Mikey, this isn't your therapy hour, bro. Let's focus.
Okay. So that's this Wednesday from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at Macayo's. All right. Speaking of therapy. Coffee with Justin. That is going to be at the surprise office April 20th at 10 a.m. There is the RSVP, just RSVP with Amy to register for that. And then we have our property management roundtable with Lisa Lanham and Jesse Collier. So if you are wanting to learn about, if you're thinking about getting into property management, or you're in property management and would like to hear from experts, including Dave Pruitt, are going to be as far as one of the specialists there. You definitely want to attend. Again, it doesn't matter what office you hang your license out of. So that's going to be at the Arrowhead office this Thursday from 10 to 11 a.m. All right, look at you, Nick.
Hey.
All right, so perfecting your nurture systems to connect and convert. So we're going to be talking about Homestack apps in the Wise Agent CRM. So that's going to be this Thursday at 11 and 2. Is that what that is? Or is that or Eastern time?
Eastern time.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. So we're now
National. We're going to be national.
You're going to be
Syndicated.
national.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, we're talking about what we always talk about is the mobile app and CRM systems. The CRM system is something we always discuss being a huge priority in your business. And West USA, you have access to a property or to a branded property search app. The developer of that app is Homestack. They have done a phenomenal job building the application, and these two companies have set up a pretty phenomenal integration. If you are a user of both systems, it's a very efficient way to drop any of your Homestack users directly into your CRM. So we'll talk about how to do that, how to then set up those systems to nurture and then take those leads, those inquiries, and turn them into actual clients.
Now, we don't have a link on here, so I'm just going to assume just go on to the dashboard, click on the calendar, and look up at this Thursday. There should be a link for it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's on there. I'm sure the team set it up.
Yeah, go ahead and just push that button on your computer, hit register now, and that will do nothing for you.
We'll send the link out here in a minute.
All right, and this Thursday, we're going to be doing our next class in our wealth building series. We're going to talk about it in a few minutes as we go through the 3-pack, but we have put together proven systems and strategies that will help you double your production in the next 12 months. So we're going to be at the Chandler office this Thursday from 10 to 11:30. So there is the URL, and you can get signed up for it. And then always every Monday afternoon, Don't Do That with Bob Stevens. All right, Todd, take it away.
All right. Hopefully everything's going to be working here. I think it probably will. I never have a problem when we get to this point of the show. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And today we're going over the market statistics for the week ending April 10th. That should say April 17th, right? Today's the 17th. Let's hope we have the right slides in here today. Okay, here we go. 69 days closed on market, a 1.47. This is accurate. A 1.47 month supply, 68.17 absorption rate. Our average list price is topping 790,000. Our average sale price up to 571. List price to sale price retention hovering at approximately 97.3%. Active inventory continuing to decline, 13,917 single-family properties available, residential, pending is sitting at 4,567, and closed units month to date at 2,846. New listings, well, you know what? Silver lining, we took more listings this week than we did the week before. However, we only took 1,792. We should be at 2,400 this time of year. Closed market, days on market for closed at 69. What's happening in the price ranges? Well, the under $500,000 ranges are shrinking again, becoming lesser part of the overall armless inventory. Right now coming in at 53.3%. That was as high as 56, almost 57% just a couple of months ago. So we're certainly, where are we eating up the inventory? We're eating it up under 500,000. Looking at the $500 to $1 million category, that's increasing. We're up to 32.5%, normally around 30%. But the big word of the day, or the big item of the day, is the $1 million and up category is up to 14%. That took a 3.5% jump. It's sitting at 109 days on market. That's normally 220 days. I mean, it's just flying. So that $1 million plus inventory is not feeling any of the pangs that are being felt by the lesser product range, price ranges. So new listings, 1,792, 1,690 last week. But if we look at last year, we took 2,200 listings, and that's much better. Year before that, 2,316. So there's definitely something happening right now. This is the precursor to our summer months. This is normally when we're definitely above the 2,000 cycle new listings average every week. So we'll have to continue to watch this, but this is an area of concern right this particular moment. Looking at active inventory of 13,917 units, sliding ever so slightly. The small drops we can handle as long as we get back to listing the inventory. If it's a bigger drop, if the mortgage rates should drop, we may be facing another multiple offer inventory shortage. But at 5 of those 13,900, 590 of those are coming soon. 10,962 are single-family detached. 1,742 builder. This is the first time we've seen a contraction, by the way, in the new home construction. That really doesn't mean anything. It's just there's fewer properties listed right now than there have been. Taking a look at distressed inventory, 13,800, non-distressed inventory, 13,865 units is what we have. Pending is picking up. You remember we were as low. I kept saying we need to be in that 5,500 range. We're at 4,567, a lot better than 3,000, 4,371 last week. So we're really picking up here. 4,910 last year, 5,900 in 2021. The sweet spot's 5,500 units. If you slide your eyes like to the right in the blue, you'll see 9,514 units in March 2022. So, again, 4,500, we have half the people in the marketplace, which is a good sign, thankfully, because of the lack of inventory. Looking at closed production at 2846 month to date, we were at 4,500 last year, same period. Consistently 36, 37% throughout the month. And then as we get to the very end of the month, we get all of our closings, which offset that number. And it probably is going to be somewhere by the end of the month, about 25% off. Looking at month supply, 1.47 month supply. So we had a hiccup last week. It was just an anomaly, 3.15, but 1.5 to 2 months supply is where we're at right now. So it is not very much inventory. Average list price, like I said, was up to $791, but $571 for average sale price. We haven't seen $571 since 2022. So again, we've been really down under that $560 mark, which has been real comfortable for us. But the prices are starting to take off again, and they're closing a little higher. But that could also be because there's less under $500,000 inventory, and so everybody's moving up into the next category if they can. Final things are days on market is pretty consistent. We don't want to go too far below 70 days for sold. We're at 69. And as far as list price to sale price retention, 97.3. What this basically means is, what was the difference between the list price and the contract accepted price at the time the contract was accepted? So 97.8 is the sweet spot. 97.3 is a little lower. We were a little higher last week, but it ebbs and flows. So as long as we stay in the 97 to 98 and a quarter, 98.1, 98.2, we should be good to go. Mike, those are the numbers this week.
I appreciate it as always, and you'll be able to find those on the dashboard later on this afternoon. All right, Matt Baker, what is going on with mortgages?
Well, rates actually did really well last week. Now, Friday and today, they've opened up a little bit worse, and you're going to see that with just basic economic data as it comes in. I think the overarching theme, and we're going to talk about inflation and the Fed and what that was last week, but the overarching theme is that the credit debt is on the rise. And so more and more people are using credit to supplement their lifestyle. And that's really causing some concern in what is going to, how are we going to dig out of a recession as we come there? And that's usually a precursor to a recession or the indicating that we're in one, because people, because the numbers haven't really followed up yet with how much you're spending, because consumer spending is a huge part of the economy. But let's talk a little bit about inflation. And we mentioned the CPI and what that was. Well, that's called the Consumer Price Index. And I pulled a couple slides from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I just felt like it was a really important thing to talk about. Now, headline, as you can see, we were up at the 9% range, and we've dropped all the way down to the 5 range, which is amazing. And it's why you've seen the rates sort of come back off of their highs. Now, it hasn't come back 4% off of their high, so it's not an equal representation, but it's a good trend line of what's happening. Now, you can see the big thing, which core is starting to flatten out. Now, they typically see this happen because core strips out the food and energy cost, and so the food and energy piece is obviously more volatile. As core flattens out, we don't really like to see it starting to trend higher, but it did ebb just slightly higher last month. And so go to the next slide. Now, I've shown this slide a few times when the Fed meets. So last month, and we always report March data in April. So we were at 0.1% in this March 23 versus March of 22, which is at the far left of your screen. We replaced that 1% number. So that's where that headline goes from like a 6 to a 5. And you're thinking, hey, yes, that should rally the rates. Now, the market already expected that, but that's what we saw Wednesday and Thursday. The market was really improved. And this Friday and Monday, we sort of have come off of that a little bit with other economic news. But the general theme, as you can see here, and this is what we're looking forward to, look at April, May, and June. You see those 0.4, 0.9, and 1.2. As those get wiped off come July, that's going to really, look at the picture. Now you've got everything at 0.5 or less in the following months. So you should expect inflation to be a decent amount lower, maybe even in the 3s or 4s, which is not where the 2% target the Fed wants, but it's moving in the right direction. Now, this next slide, I really do love, because shelter makes up 43% of the inflation number. Look at the red line, which is the FHFA's house price index, and see how it spiked and then it's come back down. But you have to remember that this inflation number is like a 12, but really almost like an 18-month average. And so it really, you can see how owner's equivalent rent is still climbing. But when you look at the fact that you have to average this over time, that the actual number is really, we feel like, at its peak. And that because it makes up 43% of the number, the people that I follow in the economic space think there's about a 2% haircut on what's being reported in this house price owner's equivalent rent in the inflation number versus what's to come. So we're really projecting that the next 6 to 9 months is going to be, you're going to really start to see some of that deflation, which is the opposite of inflation, in the housing sector, which is really where I think rates will start to really pop in our favor. Because again, I think a strong market, 4 to 5%, is where rates, I feel like, could be come end of year, first of next year.
Yep.
All right, let's so lastly, just kind of follow up. If you saw my video, you follow me on social media, you saw that a lot of people were reporting that FHA was doing 40-year mortgages. They're not. It's only if you are in a forbearance program as part of the COVID relief. There's a 40-year opportunity for you to go out there and because again, when you're in forbearance, you take your payments that you missed and you put them on the end of the loan. Well, now your payment spikes and you can't afford it. So this is allowing people, another reason why you're not going to see a whole lot of mortgage foreclosures coming to the market, right? The FHA, all these servicers are doing these things to help homeowners. So again, it's just another reason foreclosures aren't coming. And then lastly, I'm getting in the tech game here. You can take a picture of this and you can download my virtual card. It's got my social link.
Social security number?
No.
I'm getting a social right now.
My date of birth. No, it doesn't have all that. But it does have links to emails, text me, how to text me. It's a cool little popple, and it allows me to share my contact card with you. A good way to text me, and that way is the way. Anyway, so that's what we got today.
All right, appreciate it, Matt. As always, I love watching old dudes just become techie. So you're our new IT guy for the next couple of weeks.
I don't really think I'm that old.
Yeah, he's throwing barbs this morning. I actually did the same thing after we had our guest last week on. I went on and I downloaded the same thing she was using for her business cards. Now I have additional.
Was that hello one?
Yeah, hi hello.
That's what I get. Yeah, that's good.
All right, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, good stuff. All right, so that was a couple weeks ago. So if you have no idea what Nick is talking about, just go to the YouTube channel, look up,
West USA Realty.
West USA YouTube.
Yeah, I think it was last week, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. But I'm not making fun of you.
I feel like You've been a little aggressive all day.
You're a little. You're very sensitive this
I
morning.
am.
All righty. So jump right into a 3-pack real quickly. As we talked about, we are this Thursday at the Chandler office. We're doing a class on doubling your production. And Todd and Nick, what I have found typically where agents hit that proverbial wall where they're doing 5, 10, 12 deals a year and they just can't seem to get to that next level. They just can't seem to increase production, or now production is low because the last couple of years were so darn easy. We typically find that agents are just missing systems and processes, that if they just implemented a certain systems into their business to ensure that they don't lose referrals and don't lose past clients and so forth, they would continue to not only maintain their production level, but they would also increase their production level. So this is a little snippet from some of the stuff that we are going to go over on a Thursday. But of course, it's always just darn, it comes down to CRM management, right?
Yep.
And so I think, Nick, you find this because you talk to so many agents about the CRM systems. We overcomplicate CRM systems.
Totally.
It's paralysis by analysis. We sit down and we go like, oh my gosh, the CRM system can do this and the CRM system can do that. And it becomes so overwhelming, we end up not doing it. Well, my CRM system management is as simple as it gets. I focus on three things. If I meet somebody and I have a real estate conversation, or I think there's the ability to transact in the future, they go into my CRM management or my CRM system, and I put in the data: name, phone number, email address, anniversaries, birthdays, spouses' names, and so forth. Then moving forward, any conversation that I have, or that initial conversation I have with them, I put it in the activity notes, the notes section, so that at any time I can go back. It could be a year ago since the last time it was that I talked to that person, and find out what that last conversation was, or I left a message, or I sent a text today, or whatever, so that I can always see how much activity I am pouring into somebody. And then the third thing, and it's just our rule, is you never, ever, ever close out a profile without setting up a follow-up reminder, so that I can enter information, forget about the conversation, and then a month later, my CRM system will email me that morning and say, "Hey, it's time to call Nick." I'm like, I don't remember who Nick was. I don't even remember what we talked about. Open up the profile and it's all there.
Yeah, it's another way of managing everything that you have going on in your business, and it should be outside of your brain. Your brain should be focused on remembering all of the intricacies of buying and selling homes and writing contracts, negotiations, and sales, not who you spoke to at the open house a month ago. That's what the CRM system does. It's low-hanging fruit that you should be using this system. And just like you said, Mikey, it's one or two or three or four transactions start to add up, and that's how you get your production to that next level, and it's setting up efficient systems like this.
Hey, this is not new, guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of those things that if you talk to your grandparents or your great grandparents, or maybe even your parents, they're going to be talking about, a Rolodex or an 3x5 index card file,
Yeah.
or maybe something called Lotus Notes, which was for the first technology pass at CRM. But yeah, well, no, I'm saying historically, just look back. I didn't say I used it.
Sure.
But anyway, so but again, the new technology is making it easier and more convenient to use. Think about carrying a binder with you all the time that you had to keep updating or remembering, or index cards in the car. This is the most simple thing, and you can complicate it, as Mike said, but you don't need every single thing the system does. Some people have need specific parts of it, and other people need other things, but you don't need to necessarily use all of it. Operate within your bandwidth.
Well, I actually, in my office, and if you come by and you want to check it out, I have my first CRM system in my cabinet. It is 2 3-ring binders full of these pieces of paper. When I first started in radio, we would just write all this stuff there, because there was no place to put the information at that time. And there was no way to organize it, and no way to be automatically reminded to follow up and so forth.
Yeah. Clint has Clay Fouts' Rolodex sitting in a shadow box in his office. It's pretty cool to still have that up there.
All right, so area of contention. A lot of agents don't like the fact that I say this. I am not a closing gift type person. For me personally, giving somebody a closing gift doesn't do me any good. And so I am looking for ways to always increasing production. And so one of the things that we're going to go into in depth on Thursday is our closing gift activities. And there's a difference between, here's a closing gift, congratulations, here's the keys to your home, and here's this with my brand on it, whoop-de-doo, or hey, let's put together an event where you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, get to introduce me to all of your family and friends. And now I'm having that ability to begin to build relationships with them. So for us, it's about creating an event that allows you to meet their family and friends, creating a system. And we're doing our next one in 2 weeks from now. We've collected all the data. We've ordered the most incredible food truck. #Brock. Thank you. And we create systems to collect people's names, phone numbers, and email addresses. And I'm having conversations with all of these people before the housewarming party ever comes up. So for us as agents, it's assess our closing gift strategies. What are you doing when you hand the keys to somebody, and is it helping you build your business?
I think people lose sight of why we do this. I mean, we sell. It takes us a long time to get the client. Costs a lot of money to obtain the client. Then we create these relationships with people, and then we close a sale. And then it's like we don't care about ever talking to those people again.
Because we hope and pray that they remember us.
Yeah, or maybe in some instances we're hoping and praying they don't. But I don't know what the objective is, because I mean, I know what the real objective is. I don't know why people don't engage more. But consider it a gift that keeps on giving. Look at it from that perspective. When you give somebody an item, that item is either disposable, or it vanishes over time, or the intrinsity vanishes over time. But if you become that gift that continues to give, the consumer is going to continue to give you back and give you that return on engagement, return on your investment, by referring you to friends and family, by taking one of the 5 people they're going to bump into this year that are ready, willing, and able to buy a home, and they're going to refer them to you. But if you don't do those things, in drips alone, don't just do that.
Well, it's the conversation I have with my
Right.
wife all the time. I am the gift that keeps on giving.
Wow.
But anyways, that's just between her and I and our relationship. But Nick, this is why I always start off with CRM management.
Correct.
So if I've now built a system where I'm collecting people's names, phone numbers, and email addresses, they go,
What are you doing with
they
it?
go into my CRM system, and now I've just added. And I would rather get the names, phone numbers, and email addresses of 25 family and friends of my client rather than new leads off Facebook or open houses or whatever the case is.
Of course, your referrals are always going to be the easiest thing to move through. And again, you started with CRM because you're building your funnel. We're talking to business owners and entrepreneurs. Your goal is sales. You need to continue to fill your pipeline with people to speak to. And if you don't have anyone to talk to, these systems these things we're talking about are strategies to get people into your CRM, holding open houses when you do have that closing, setting up an event to work with the relationships you just built, because that's what this is. It's not a past client, which, I hate that term. It's not a past closing. It's a relationship that you have built over time through this process that you worked with these individuals very closely. Now you want to celebrate that, and you get something both sides of that
And it's
party.
such a warm handoff, right? Like you're at an event, they're walking you to the person they're introducing to. It's not a text, it's not an email, it's not a phone call. They're physically introducing you to somebody. That's great. That's fantastic.
And for those of you that just jumped, that voice that you heard is not the voice of God. That is Anthony Cucci from HCP Home Inspection.
As long as he stays inside the red tape, he's good.
Yeah,
There you go.
stay in that red tape. There you go, buddy.
All right, and so then a couple other things we're going to go in depth on our class on Thursday is one is our elevator pitch. When somebody asks you what you do for a living, what do you say? If you say you're a real estate agent and you're a realtor and you're wondering why people are running from you, well, we will show you a different strategy to take that question and turn it into a deeper conversation. Of course, we're very, very big into after the close system. So when you do hand the keys to so-and-so and you do, throw them some sort of an event or whatever the case is, what is it that you do over the next 12 months? We have a 23 touch system in which you're going to be touching your clients 23 times in the next 12 months. And then the biggest one is it takes time. And I think this is where agents, they don't have patience in this, but it takes time to build business from your sphere of influence. But it's not, Todd, it's not a matter of saying, every agent tell you, I got to go work my sphere of influence. But if you ask them, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, what systematic approach do you take to work your sphere of influence? And they don't necessarily have a great answer.
That commercial that says, "What's in your wallet?" I like to look at agents and say, how well are you, what is that particular CRM? How well is it working for you today? Well, how many leads did you actually get and sell off of it last year? And to be quite honest with everybody, if you have nothing and you're a great relationship person, you have relationships with 4 or 5 people, those people should give you 5 leads a piece per year or 20 deals a year, just in the relationship with, but what word did I use? Relationship.
Yeah.
You don't do that solely just by dripping them things. You have to do all these different you know what? If I was doing day-to-day real estate in the trench with everybody like I had been for 20 years, I would be at your class on Thursday.
I appreciate that.
So for a lot of agents, we run into the elevator pitch. Speaking out loud and taking what you do and putting it into an elevator pitch is difficult for a lot of realtors. And so going through your class is definitely something you're going to learn that from. I would also recommend, not take away from Mike and Ryan what they're going to teach you, but ChatGPT is a system that we have seen a lot of agents take the bullet points, the things that they focus on, and you can say, write me a 30-second elevator pitch on X, Y, and Z, and it will actually give you a start. I'm not saying you copy and paste it, but it's a place that you can start. And then these types of classes that we see agents, well, you guys have been selling these out, but these are the kind of classes that will move the production up in your business.
Move the needle.
Well, yeah, and the whole goal is to increase production to make money and attend money-making activities. But yeah, I'm telling you, just back to the sphere of influence. If agents, they don't have the patience, because it takes a while. They don't have the patience because they don't have strategies and they're not seeing that success. I find when you have a strategy set in place, then it's easier to have patience and trust the system, because you know it's going to take time, but you are following, you're following those steps.
That was probably one of the most profound things agents.
wait
a minute though, that agents need to hear.
Can't take that back.
Well, no, because you still said it. Because of the fact that you got to understand what the benchmark is, but you got to give it time to get there.
100%. It's farming a neighborhood for a month and not getting any transactions out of it and saying I'm done.
Yep.
You've got to keep swinging.
Yep.
All right. So with all this being said and done, and especially talking about elevator pitch, which is probably I'm the most passionate, most excited about it, because it is probably my most successful lead generation tool that I have. But you have to put yourself in situations where you have that option, you have that ability to actually give your elevator pitch. And so a lot of people know Anthony Cucci with HCP Inspections, and obviously one of our number one sources when it comes down to home inspections. But Anthony has built his business through networking as opposed to anything else. And he's one of the best networkers that I know in the business. I learn from him when it comes down to networking. So we're not necessarily here to talk about home inspections, but as much as just talk about that process of networking. So Anthony, thanks for popping in. How are you, man?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, so let's just jump into it, because you threw out 7 tips to networking.
Yeah.
So when you hear the word networking, what pops to your head?
Relationships. So I think, before I start, there's a million ways to build a network, right? And so this may not work for everybody, but it's stuff that I gathered, stuff that I've kind of put together, and this is how I work it. So I view networking as building relationships. A lot of people look at it as an opportunity to gain business, as kind of what's in it for me. And I think if you build relationships, they last forever. And sometimes business happens and sometimes it doesn't directly with that person, and that's okay. And I think you have to be okay with it. So yeah, that's the word I hear, is relationships when I see it.
All right. So number one, as far as your tips go, so above all else, to shine, own self, be true.
Thine. To thine.
To thine.
I figured I'd hit you guys with some Shakespeare, right?
Yeah, well, we forgot it was Mike, right? Mike's reading it.
So unfair.
Queen here.
Yeah. So by this, I just mean be genuine, right? Be who you are. Be a genuine person. A lot of people take tips and tricks and they try to act like the other person in the room. Maybe that person had success and they try to mirror that. And your true person doesn't come out. And people do business with people they like. People do business with people they trust. And I think a lot of times, be comfortable with who you are. Be comfortable with, in your own skin, so to speak.
What about? I take this the opposite direction. First of all, I can't work with everyone, and I don't want to work with everyone. And so instead of trying to just be all things to all people, I'm more of, hey, I'll take it or leave it type of person. This is my business model. These are the clients that I like to work with. And if you don't like it, that's fine, and be okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that's an evolution of your business to get to that point where you're able to take a step back and go, these are my people. This is the demographic that I actually work with well. It takes a while to get there. But to Anthony's point, people want to work with a brand. They want to work with someone that they know and that they trust. And it's, like you said, genuine. And who you portray on social media and online and in that world should be very similar to the person that they're standing in front of shaking hands with. Because if you're not, they're not going to want to continue to work with you.
I think everybody needs to go and look up the definition of the word brand, because I think everybody thinks it's some kind of marketing thing or some kind of advertising game or trickery. Brand is a person's feelings and perception when they're finished with your service. That's what the brand is. And so you want that consistent throughout everything. And that's what helps build, your business and what people can expect from you, and not exceed, don't overpromise. It allows you to really just deliver what you can.
Yeah, I think building your business and building your team based on how you are as a person far outshines the promises and commitments you can make on the back end that you may or may not be able to live up to.
Yep.
All right, number 2. Okay, good. So this isn't Shakespeare. I think I can read this one.
Yeah, I dumbed it down a little bit for you, Mike.
Loosen thy pitch.
Thy don't sell, thy build.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people and obviously, these tips are for like an event or an opportunity, right? So I think a lot of people go into networking events and they have a preset goal. Okay, I'm going to talk to 20 people. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to give my elevator pitch. It's not a sales call, right? So I think when you first meet people and you engage people, that's not the time to sell them with who you are. It's a time to understand who they are, what the company they represent maybe. It's gathering facts, right? And so it's the beginning of building a rapport. Like I said before, relationships last forever if you build the foundation properly.
Yeah, my strategy in these events, and Ryan and I use the term shrinking the room. So I walk into a network event, there's 50 people. I walk in not with the goal of handing out 50 business cards.
Yeah.
My goal is I want to set up 2 appointments, because it does become about relationships. I can't in a networking event sell and close a deal. It's almost impossible. But it's, if I meet somebody and I have that conversation and I feel like that there is the potential for me to provide value and or transact with them, then it's setting up now that follow-up. So if every networking event I went to, I set up 2 to 3 appointments, that really starts to add up very, very quickly.
Well, those are great. You have to have an expected result in anything that you go into, or else why are you going into it? But at that same point, Mike, it's kind of like we were talking, we've been talking for years about the housewarming parties, right? And the fact is if you get in a room and you start pitching everybody, the room's going to realize real fast, don't talk to Todd, because all he's going to do is pitch you with real estate, or that's the depth of his knowledge base. But the reality is that if you just, and you don't want to be a secret agent either, so that to our founders and CEOs perspective, Clint Fouts, you don't want to be a secret agent. You got to let people know you're in real estate. However, there's a point in time for that. Why don't you become, did we forget how to win friends and influence people? Why don't you just become a friend, a contact, a person that they might need to use sometime in the future? A resource. Yeah, stop trying to close everybody. I think we overdid the word convert.
And I think, a lot of agents, they get into those situations, they get a little nervous to have real estate conversations, especially if they're newer, they don't have a lot of sales under their belt. People aren't looking to see how many sales you have. They're looking for guidance and feedback and advice. And we do it all the time. We go to our office happy hours or networking events. My goal to be there is to do exactly what Mike said. I want to have a conversation with one of our agents, kind of figure out what's going on in their business. I can't fix an issue or have a big conversation in that room, but I can definitely set a lunch. I can definitely set a phone call. And again, the only reason that they want to talk to me is because we can work together and we can grow as a group, and the person and I can then have a conversation. I can help facilitate whatever's going on in their business, maybe make their life a little bit better. That's what these conversations are. You're not trying to sell a house in that networking event. You're just trying to build a relationship.
People are looking for a connection.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Relationships take time. And that's why, and it is about managing expectations. If you show up to an event expecting to close the deal, you're going to be disappointed and walk away with nothing. If you show up with the intent of identifying a certain number of people that I'm going to build a relationship with and take it to that next step, and that next step is the meeting or whatever that follow-up is, because it takes time.
And I think you have to be okay with not making a sale with that person. Like, you have to be okay knowing that there's an opportunity there, that you might become friends, you might build a relationship, and there's no business between you two, right? And that's okay too.
Yeah. I love this one because, and we're
getting better in the mic world.
I know. But we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth in our Thursday class when we're talking about sphere of influence. We have a process and a system that our agents do to identify those top 12 people in their sphere of influence that could and should be sending them referrals. And we talk about setting up that initial meet. The goal always of that initial meet is how can I figure out to provide value for you?
That's all it is.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about reciprocation. If I can provide value for you and be genuine about it down the road, you will hopefully want to work with me or help me. So we talk about putting on our PI hat, private investigator's hat, and I'm listening, because there's got to be something in there in this initial conversation where I can provide value. And I say provide value outside of real estate,
Right.
going beyond. If you're a business owner, maybe there's somebody that I can send you a new client or something like that.
Mike,
Yeah, I think you're stealing my notes.
Oh.
I don't know, but Mike, you and I have been doing this since what, 90 something. And, I can tell you that that's exactly what we used to do. We used to say to people, if you don't know, you should be able to go through your list, what we call a sphere, your database, the people that you know. You should be able to go through that list, and you should be able to identify not only what the person that you know does for work as employment, their spouse or their significant other or their, best friend or whatever, because if you refer more people to them, they become obligated. It's an old-fashioned sales technique. They become obligated to do business with you. It doesn't always happen to Anthony's point. You can't expect and then feel alienated if you don't get the business. But again, if you don't know what they do, you're missing a huge part of prospecting.
I think the key to this point that I was trying to make is you have to earn your ask, right? Like you have to earn the opportunity to do business with them. And the only way you earn that is by providing value, like you said, outside of your scope, right? Absolutely. And I think it takes us into our next point. I mean, I say be purposely intentful, right? Be deliberate in your actions. Be present. I think a lot of times people get to events and they're talking to somebody and they're engaging with somebody, but they're really not listening, right? They're just worried about being able to get to that next person. And it's not about rushing off to the next conversation. Just say you hit 10 people or whatever. It's about being in the moment and being present. And I think that's probably the most important thing, because people feel like when you're having a conversation, people understand and people feel when you're just yesing them or just trying to move on. And it's not a pleasant feeling, right? Like I've been on the receiving end of that. It's not great. Like you want to feel important. You want to feel like the conversation you're having, I'm dedicating my time to you by having this conversation. You're not even listening to me. Like the relationship's dead right there, right?
I think it's a weird badge of honor that we wear in our current society to be busy. Like we want everyone to think that we're always running around and we're always rushing around. But when people see that, they start to hesitate to reach out to you because they don't want to bother you. They don't want to waste your time with these silly questions. So I love this point, and I think it's something that we should focus more on and reminding ourselves. Be in that conversation, be in that phone call. If someone calls you and they go, well, how's your day? If you're always, oh, I'm super busy, I have to do this, then I have to go do that, then I have to go to that. It's like, okay, I'm so sorry for wasting your time. But how's your day? Oh, it's great. What can I do for you? And you give them that all of your focus there, they're going to feel more comfortable having a conversation with you. There's going to be no hesitation to reach out whenever.
If you think about when you meet somebody, if you can't remember their name seconds after they've told it to you, that's not a memory master's problem. What you're realizing is that you have a different purpose than the conversation is headed. Your purpose is to maybe wait for that second of silence so you can jump in and give that your opinion or your feelings or your something. When in actuality, if you slowed the roll to the point where you're just having a true purposeful conversation, then it's funny, you'll remember people's names by mistake. And it's the exact opposite. It's because if you can't remember people's names, it's because all you're there for is to let them hear you, not for you to hear them.
Yeah, it's kind of a two-edged sword. I mean, at the end of the day, the intent is to build our business, but it can't have that appearance that that's what you're all about. And so going back, I think 3 and 4 just it goes hand in hand. Because I'm one of those people. I'm a talker, and I generally find myself the most interesting person in the room. So I would rather hear myself, right?
Yeah.
And it is when I'm in networking events, Anthony, I literally have to sit myself down and kind of just have a little motivational talk with myself of, listen, pal, it's not about you. Your job is here is to figure out what's going on with everybody else and how can you bring that value to them. Because when you do that, there is a level of satisfaction when you can be the rainmaker for everybody else and you can bring that value. But I did want to touch on one of the things on point 3, Anthony, is talking about deliverables. If we're having a conversation with someone and we say we're going to do something, we're going to introduce you to so and so or whatever the case is, you have to do it, because when you don't meet those deliverables, it's the business is out the door.
Yeah, and it could be something super small that you've committed to, and if you don't live up to that, that reflects how you're going to transact with everything else, right? And so, yeah, absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly.
And the timing behind that too. I mean, if you say you're going to do something, don't like draw it out, get it done.
Yeah, this next one's not mine. There's a book called Grow Your Network, and they talk about the 4 C's of networking, right? So confidence, credibility, clarity, and connectivity. So as Nick was saying earlier, I don't think a lot of, I don't want to say I don't think, but a lot of people have issues with confidence, right? They don't feel like they're credible. Maybe they haven't had a ton of sales or anything like that, but believe that you bring value to that conversation, believe that you bring value to that relationship, and just work off that, right? Don't talk out of your backside. Don't pretend that you know something that you don't. It's okay to say, hey, I'm not an expert in that, but I know somebody who is, and bring that to the relationship. So confidence is key. Competence is key. People sniff out real quick if you're talking out of your backside, right? And so I think that's super important. Credibility, like I said, knowing what you're saying, knowing that your knowledge or your skill set, brings value, right? I think it's super important, right? And it establishes credibility. And it may not be what the conversation's about, but if you can work in how you relate to that subject, you're adding instant credibility. Clarity, and this is something I work on a lot. I'm kind of a squirrel guy. Like my conversations go 10 different directions.
We don't.
Thanks, Mike. And so I think it's just important to be clear, right? Be clear with what you're doing. Be clear in what you're saying. Be clear in your communications. Like you alluded to earlier, if you're committing to introducing somebody to somebody, be clear. When are you going to do that? Hey, I'll get to you in the next week. I'll have it to you by Friday. Don't just say, hey, I'll get around to it, right? So, and the last thing is connectivity. Like I think what we talked about earlier, everybody's looking for a connection. And when you're first engaging people, it's about that quality of the conversation. It's about that connection. I think a lot of people, like you said earlier, are just in a rush to hand out business cards. Hey, I handed out 100 business cards tonight. Okay, well, how many conversations did you have? And I think that's super important.
Yeah, we could spend an hour on this one. I mean, it's one of the things that we just constantly focus on our team meetings. Is we're not in the business of being real estate agents. We're not in the business of selling homes. We're in the business of helping people understand information. We are the providers of information. And I always start with what's on people's minds right now. Okay, they don't want a CMA. They don't care about CMA. They don't even know what a CMA is. There's so many things that, as traditionally, we try to cram down people's throats with information and knowledge, and it's not the things that they care about. What they care about right now is understanding the market. They care about interest rates. They care about where the market's going. They care about, did I miss the boat? Do they care about, is there money still to be made in real estate? Is this a good time to buy? Is this a good time to sell? And the answer is always yes, no matter what. But with that, when you understand what's on people's minds, and you can have intelligent conversations with them. We spend so much time on this weekly podcast talking about overcoming objections and so forth. Then people start coming to you because you are the credible source. That's all I do. I provide information for my sphere of influence, people around me. And I can't go anywhere in my sphere of influence world without people wanting to talk real estate, because they know that I know when it's time for them to do something, they're going to come to me. They know they're not threatened to talk to me, because all they're going to get from me is my perspective on what's going on in the market. And that is when you're in a networking setting, be that, provide the information, and that will build the credibility.
Eliminate the noise, right?
Yeah.
I always tell people, if you can be the person that somebody comes to eliminate all the noise they're hearing from outside the community, if you can be that resource, you've already won.
Yeah. So I would as an encouragement to our agents, to those of you that are listening, I mean, attend events that are going to help you understand the market, overcome this. I know that Tina Tambor has her Monday morning or Monday thing. Oh my God, why you wouldn't be listening to that? And Todd, I know you post everything,
It's
the
different.
numbers,
It's different.
but you post, I mean,
Yeah.
know those things. Know the numbers, know
Totally.
what's going on so that you can become the source of information. It was so much easier, Todd, when we got started in this business because there was no internet. We were the only source of information. If you wanted information about buying a home or selling a home, you had to go to a realtor. It's not the case anymore. They don't need to come to a realtor to understand it, and therefore it becomes a lot of noise.
Yep.
All right, expand your network. Organic comfort is a killer, quality over quantity.
Yeah. So I feel like, it's human nature to, when you get an event and you feel awkward or you don't know anybody, you migrate to the people you know, and you have conversations, and maybe it's an hour an event and you spend 30 minutes talking to your buddies. That's not what that's for, right? You have to get out there. But I see it every day. I see it all the time.
So,
We host happy hours, we host events, and people huddle in a corner, and it's like, you interact with those people every day. There's 30 people at this table that you've never talked to. How are you not having a conversation with them? And so, yeah, I think, organically you're comfortable with the people and it kills everything. And then, like I said earlier, I can't focus on this one enough. It's about the quality of the interactions, not quantity.
I have a little story about the organic comfort as a killer. So I started in real estate at West USA 11 years ago. About 6 months after I started, some random guy sat in the front of the room and started yelling at me about steaks. And that was the day Mike and I became friends. And we worked together for many, many years. Well, when I first moved up into my role at West USA and I was asked to start participating in the networking event, the happy hours, I was a new realtor. I had no idea what value I could bring to an agent in a conversation. So whenever I saw Weinstein at a happy hour, I just stuck right next to him and I just kind of listened to what he was saying, but we would end up having a conversation. I remember after a few months, I got called into the boss's office and he was like, "Hey, we're sending you to these networking events to talk to the agents, not to Weinstein. So go talk to the agents." So it was a kind of gentle reminder, but it kind of pushed me into that outside of my comfort zone. I had to go and speak to agents outside of the ones that I knew and talk about different things in their business. And you get better at it every time you do it. And you'll be surprised how fast it comes because you do have the knowledge. You're listening to the podcast every single week. So you're learning these things.
this is funny because, I imagine, you go to a bar or you're off work and you're going and you're single and you're looking to, find someone that might be a good partner. And, where do you go? And, and you get there and there's all these people and you select a few people visually that you think you'd like to go up and talk to. And then you build all these self-inflicted obstacles of why you can't go over there and say hello, and all of a sudden somebody else does. You missed out. Well, that's just like what's happening in real estate. Somebody else is getting them before you do because you're killing yourself by all these self-limitations that you add because you don't want to step outside and do something that is relatively uncomfortable.
And make no mistake about it, I think if you leverage that relationship that you have with somebody and they can introduce you to somebody you're looking to, absolutely. Yeah. But don't sit in a corner and just talk to somebody for an hour. It's not at the same point.
You didn't win.
Yeah. At the same point, these events aren't an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? Like, it's not about.
They should be.
But it's not about just going in and having the conversation with as many people as you can, right? Dropping off business cards at tables or anything like that, right? Like, it's quality. You want a steak, not a hamburger. Yeah.
And I would just also say on this point too, I'm not into. I know, Todd, you are a lot more into personality assessments and things like that. But you do have to know whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Absolutely. When you're at networking events. Yep. An extrovert obviously has to. An extrovert has an easier time working the room. The introvert doesn't, and they'll find that one person to talk to, and then they'll be with that person for the entire time. So you just have to be aware of who you are. But that's why for me is it's just knowing what the strategy is, knowing what the goal is. When I walk into a room, again, for me personally, the goal is not to hand out a bunch. I don't even carry business cards. My goal is to walk away with contact information from at least 2 people, depending on how long that event is. And I don't know whether I should say this, but it's just what I do. I'm going to say it anyways. But it's funny. I do go to a lot of these happy hours, and I just notice, especially a lot of our industry partners, they're investing money to feed us and to give us drinks, which I appreciate. But oftentimes they're just all in a corner, and they've never once leave that corner and go out and you're here to talk to me as the agent and those but we then in turn do that sometimes as agents as well.
So I just got to follow up with a.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you
Follow
go. With the introvert extrovert thing. If you're the kind of person that would like to have consumers come to you, that's like a retail sales environment. You want somebody else really to do the work. Okay, you're an introvert. If you are the kind of person who goes out and creates that business, you introduce the conversation, you're an extrovert. And so if you just look back at the last 6 months of your life, which of those two are you? It'll just immediately help you realize where do you need to be to make something happen. If you're that introvert, you need to be at open houses, or you need to be at some kind of event, or creating events yourself that you can draw people to for a different reason, or even for the same reason, and then work that. But if you're the other kind of person, you get up every morning and it's a statistic. If I go out and meet 100 people, I'm going to close 1.5 deals. So you just go do it.
All right. I'm going to add one more point to that. Yeah. And I know we're on time, but I would say if you're an introvert, or if social anxiety is a real thing, right? And so there's nothing wrong with a buddy system, right? There's nothing wrong with going at it as a pair, having somebody introduce you, starting that. I feel like once that conversation starts, a lot of people get comfortable and it's rolling, and kind of just feed off each other back and forth. There's nothing wrong with that either.
All right.
That's a great idea.
All right, last one. I love this one because, Thursday we're going to talk about housewarming parties.
Yeah.
And here's what I tell my team. If you go to all of this effort to put together a housewarming party and follow our strategies and invest money, and you don't follow up, you are nothing but an event planner.
Well, you're wasting your time, right?
And your money.
You're just putting together an event.
Yep.
And it's funny that we even have to post this, right? But statistically speaking, it's rarely done. People rarely follow up with the relationships they initiate, they encounter. I'll tell a funny story. I won't name names. I was at a happy hour, shocker. But I was at a happy hour, and another vendor and I were talking, and he probably had like a 40-minute conversation with a CEO of a fairly large company. And they were talking, and then it got personal. They talked about golf, and the CEO, this is a buying question to me, but the CEO is like, we should plan a golf event. He's like, we should go golfing together. And I left the conversation, and I saw my friend about a week later or so. I was like, hey, where are you guys going golfing? He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, you had a conversation with so-and-so, and he invited you to go play golf. Where did you set that up? He's like, I haven't called him back yet. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
No.
Right? He's like, well, that's not what I was there for. I'm like, no, absolutely. You were absolutely, that's what you were there for. Yeah. And so I think you miss the boat when you don't follow up, and it's a loss leader, right?
Well, and I would just say this, and this is going to be a good segue because Nick wanted to talk about a wise agent. Follow up starts with your CRM system. I do not have the ability or the skill set to remember every conversation that I have every single day or every single week and the amount of people that I meet. It's almost daily. I wish it was daily. I wish I was a little more disciplined, but every single day, inputting all your information from that day into CRM system.
Yep. Yeah, we're getting a lot of questions about specific CRMs. So just real quick, not to pitch, but if you ask me or anybody at the West USA corporate office what CRM we recommend, we would generally going to recommend Wise Agent CRM. If you go to westusacrm.com, it's going to take you to a landing page. It's going to allow you to sign up for their CRM system. You're going to get the full Wise Agent CRM. It's $30 a month. You also, for being a West USA agent, get unlimited text and video text. It's a very big deal. As we know, phone calls, emails are going to always go to spam. Texting has still got a 97.8% open rate. Video text is even higher than that. So being at West USA, you get that included at no additional charge. So if you're looking to try out a CRM, check out Wise Agent CRM. They're local. They're in Fountain Hills. They're going to be on the podcast that I'm doing later this week if you want to get more information, but you can definitely go to westusacrm.com and check them out.
All right.
Love it.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks for
Good
having me.
stuff,
Very
man.
cool.
Good stuff. And just as a quick
Amazing.
reminder, Anthony is the owner of HCP Property Inspections. He is, I'll just say it, my go-to
Mine
when
too.
it comes down to home
Same.
inspections for not only myself, but for our team. And there's a reason for it. So if you're in the business or in the market of needing a home inspection company or a new home inspection company, I can't recommend him any more than I do. And so that is always first and foremost, because
He's also a
Scissors
very
with bell.
successful business entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He's run many businesses. So our vendor industry partners are there to help us with our real estate stuff, but they also could be a great resource for you to learn from growing your business. And so that's what, Anthony's here today to do that, because he's doing this for agents every day.
and always increasing his business acumen. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Oh, look at that. We had a
Ooh,
little
it's fun.
It's fun. I don't even know how to
That's
do
cute.
that. All right. Leave you with the quote of the day from Tom Ferry. When you put genuine inspiration behind your actions, the whole world opens up to you. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Go out and sell a home.